Fast Forward Productions. The women are speaking.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to The Unfiltered Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Ashley Pollard. Today, we have another incredible guest for the podcast. I'm really excited for this one. I cannot wait for you guys to meet Haley. She is just like such a precious gem. She's like one of those people where I'm like, I want to put her in a box so that nothing hurts her. And if anyone comes for her, I will hurt you. You know what I mean? Like, do you know those people where you're just like, you're so sweet? That's Haley. But on top of that, she has a killer ambition and quick wit. She's so smart. I love what she's doing. And she's grown her business so exponentially over the past 9 months or so in a way that's very inspiring. Her business may not be similar to a business that you run, but I want you to listen to her growth tactics, the way that she works with clients. I mean, you want to talk client experience? Hers is above and beyond. I mean, we didn't even touch on some of the ways that she really serves her clients. One of the cool things that she does, because she works with couples, when she sends deliverables, she asks people the next time that they will be together and if they can make a date night out of it. And that is when she sends her deliverables. I just think it's like even things as small as that are such a sweet token to take home, considering how they're going to be using the deliverables, when they're going to do it. Just so many great little nuggets from her. But on top of that, I also think that there's great mindset takeaways, business development tips throughout here. A solid episode. You'll really get to understand Haley's business and fall in love with her because like I said, she's just so sweet. But you'll also probably be inspired. And I hope that you guys follow her on TikTok, on Instagram. She's become one of my favorite people to follow, and I hope that you see what I do, which is that she's just a smart young woman with such a bright future ahead of her, and I can't wait for you to learn more about her. Hello, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Entrepreneur podcast / video moment on YouTube. Now that we are up and running, so exciting. Today I have maybe my favorite guest of all time in the history of guests. I mean, I probably say it about everybody, let's be totally honest, but I'm so excited for you to meet this wonderful gem because I know I'm going to be a little cocky here, but it's very hard to teach me things. And I'm learning from this very wise young business owner. And I have so many things that I want to share from you that I've learned from her. She's someone who is about to catapult, and I'm so excited about it. But yeah, so let's all welcome the lovely Haley McDevitt to the podcast. Hello, Haley.
Hi, Ashley and listeners.
Hello, everybody. Now, your business is called Perennial Feels. Why don't we tell everybody, just so that everybody can get a little feel for what you do, because that will definitely set the stage for the rest of the conversation. I have so many questions. I can't wait to dive in. I'm just going to be like, and what about this? Like, I probably have more questions for you than most other people. So why don't you tell people what you do? Because I'm obsessed with what you do.
Yes. Okay, I will. So Perennial is a wedding photography company / brand that I founded about 2 years ago now. It's taken many forms in the past, but like the stable name now is Perennial, and I'm obsessed with it.
Wait, did we drop the feels?
Oh, so it's Perennial Feels. So actually, in fact, it's Perennial Photography, but my Instagram and like my website, it's Perennial Feels. So like I almost have like a DBA.
So I have been misnaming it.
I love the Perennial Feels because, I mean, it's what people know me as. So yeah, Perennials. I think Perennial is like clean and I like it, but I love Perennial Feels too. So either way, it's fine. Wedding photography company. And I am the lead photographer owner. I have a few people working with me to like help with content and everything. But it was basically born out of the pandemic. When I graduated college, I didn't have a job and I had this skill of photography that I'd been working on for like a decade. At that point, I was working with other photographers, assisting and second shooting at weddings, and then eventually decided to go off on my own and create my own business. And now it is my full-time income, which is incredible. Yeah, it's been an incredible shift. It was really scary at first, as I'm sure many of you listening can relate. But so what I try to do is just, I guess, like take the posed and the stuffy pictures out of the wedding industry and just help couples feel like themselves, have the best day ever, and like forget about basically everything that they're told that they're about their wedding, that it has to go a certain way. And yeah, like help them just be themselves in their photos.
But the thing is that you are not just shooting weddings. You do all of these other special moments? Why don't you tell people also like these little moments in time that you're capturing also for people?
Yeah. So I guess my main focus right now is couples. So when a couple books me, they book me for their wedding in the future, whether that's like a year or so away. And it comes with an engagement session. So on top of the wedding, I'm already doing their engagement session, which is great. And that's just basically like for save the dates. So that's something that all of us are familiar with, the pictures that live on your fridge. So I do those photo shoots as well. And then surprise proposals I've gotten into. I dabble in some business branding and like family things just for repeat clients or people who are like dying to work with me. But yeah, since weddings take up so much time, that is my main thing right now, but I have the ability to do a bunch of different things.
Now, okay, here's where I'm about to go haywire because I have questions about wedding photography and as a single person, like, just not understanding that space at all. And what can we know now that we're talking to a wedding photographer? Is it fair to call you that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now that we're talking to a wedding photographer and a wedding photography business, I have so many questions just because I've been in so many weddings and I have so many friends still getting married. Like, I'm sure that they are curious about some of the things I'm curious about. But I also want to talk a little bit about later. I want to dive into your content because you have had such an interesting content strategy that I'm obsessed with and I want people to learn from it. And I also want to talk about you and your road as an entrepreneur. So first with the wedding photography, like I just have so many, I'm just going to like go off here. You know what I mean? If I'm getting married, right? 10, 20 years from now, when I get married, maybe never, then how far in advance do I want to book a wedding photographer? Is that the burning question that everybody needs to know?
I would say so. Yeah. It varies a lot depending on how, I guess, popular or how in demand a photographer is, but I would say standard is about a year.
Really?
A year. Yeah. So
do you ever get people that are like, can you shoot my wedding next month?
I do. I just got that recently. I just got that the other day. There's a wedding in August and I had to turn it down because I just couldn't mentally handle all of it. But yeah, so I would say a year is pretty standard. Some people book out 2 years in advance. I don't want that to stress people out, but that's like for the ultra planner who like books their venue, wants to get their heavy hitting vendors out of the way. So I already am booked for 2025, which makes me like my head kind of crazy. And then my boyfriend wonders why I'm like, what are we doing next week for, down the shore? And he's like,
you're like, I'm in February 2025.
I literally like, this is why I have control issues and my calendar looks crazy. So yeah, some people book out way far in advance, not very common, but I would say a year and then like 9 months to a year is probably the most standard.
Yeah. And I would always think wedding season might be like May, June, September, October. Is that typically when it's busiest for you?
Definitely. Yeah. You hit the months right on the head.
Well. And the other thing there is, so you do these surprise proposals. Do you notice surprise proposals are a certain time of year? Like, is there a time that everybody's getting proposed to?
Honestly, yeah, I would say holidays are really popular because if you think like, even if you don't have family in different places, everyone gathers around those times. And so
you're like able to celebrate and
yeah, because most people have a surprise proposal and then a party, like a gathering after. And that's not obviously required, but I would say that's most common. So when everyone's around, it kind of works seasonally as well, which helps because it's my slower wedding season. And then I get to like really ramp up proposals.
Now let's talk about like the perennial take on things, right? Because when we started working, when was our VIP day?
I could probably tell you the exact day, but I know it was December.
Okay, well, we're going to dive into that.
Yeah.
But, when we had ours, what was always fascinating to me is that whenever I have a VIP day with someone or a call with someone or a strategy session, I always tend to, and I think this is standard, I think it just is what it is. I think of their industry as they're like one of many. Like you're doing the thing that everybody else is doing. And what I learned more and more from working with you because you're inside the doers is that you have such a beautiful take that now, granted, I'm not in the wedding industry. I'm not in the wedding photography industry. I am single. I'm far from the wedding industry. So maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but as someone who follows wedding photographers and has been to many weddings and things like that, I feel like your take is so unique because you are phenomenal at making the moment not the same as everybody else is. I feel like when I see pictures that you post, it's not necessarily like everything else, you know? And is that something that you do on purpose? Is that something that like you challenge yourself to try to do things differently? Or are you finding couples that are creative? Like, tell me a little bit about that aesthetic.
I love these. So many things came up in my head. I wish I had like a little notepad. So I would say I'm doing it on purpose. I went into the wedding industry and it wasn't always like that. I went in thinking that I had to match industry standards, that every wedding had to have a shot list, that I had to make details be immaculate, have a flat lay, do it like the luxury photographers do. And that's the only way I could make it. And then I act like in the beginning when I would second shoot for photographers and assist, I never wanted to be a full-time wedding photographer. So it's so interesting looking back at that mindset that I had, because I would leave them and not be inspired and be like, I am so exhausted. My feet feel like they're going to fall off. And like, gosh, it's so stressful, right? Because obviously it's the best time of someone's life, but it's a very stressful, high stake day. Going into it, I knew that like, if I'm going to enter this happy industry, like all around creative people and loving couples for the most part, I want to have fun, right? And I don't want my photos to look like everyone else's. And if I want to stand out from other photographers, I have to differentiate somehow. So of course that took different forms over the years as well. But I think recently I've just been really confident in like working with couples, intentionally trying to make every single shoot and every single wedding different, even by the slightest. Like I obviously I'll try the same things with different couples, but it's hilarious because it often is like, as soon as you try to do that, someone's laughing at you because you're like, it just didn't work the same, right? So yeah, I think it's by nature of like meeting people. Everyone's relationship is different. And so I'm challenged each time I meet a couple by like the way that they interact and like different prompts I want to try that could help inspire conversation for them and not another couple that I'm working with. So it's a mix of.
There was an interesting thing that I saw in your content about getting them to laugh that I felt was way more organic than like, okay, now we're going to like act like she said something funny, which I think we've all heard. Can you share what that was?
Yes. So I think what you're referring to is that the way that I get like more intimate moments of like real tears and like puppy dog eyes when they're looking at each other is that I laugh with them first, because in real life, as humans, we don't cry together until we laugh together. And so with couples, if I'm working with them for 90 minutes during an engagement session or a wedding day, that's the only like face-to-face interaction we really have. And so the time is of the essence. I can't just assume that someone is going to immediately trust me and that I'm going to get the best photos if I just do the same things. So in terms of getting them to laugh, I have these prompts. I pulled them from different resources, I guess. I've made them my own in some ways, but I have these prompts. It starts out with laughing out loud. So what I try to do is that I'll give you an example. I think that's the best way to go. My favorite one that I always start out with is I have the couple look at each other and I say, okay, I need you to think of the same exact color right now and don't say it. Do you have your color? And then they're like looking, they're like, what is this game she's playing? And they're like, yes, I have my color. And they're always confident. They're like, I said, it has to be the same color. And if it's the same color, you're bound for a great marriage. And if it's not the same color, you're doomed and you failed your first test. So then they do it and it goes like one of a few ways, but whether they say the same color or not, they end up like screaming, laughing because they're like, you idiot. Or like,
right.
Blue. That's my,
how did you not pick pink? Or like, oh my God, we both picked blue or whatever.
Yes. And like when they get the same color, their faces, it looks like they won the lottery. Like they drop and jaws drop and they're so excited. So things like that, like I immediately start with that because like they recognize that I'm goofy and this is not going to be a very serious time. Like I just want to be like, relax and not think about the way that their arm looks, you know?
Yeah, right. That is so fun. And I think it shows that you are not getting hired to, because here's the thing. I do think there's a difference between someone who can operate a camera as a piece of machinery and someone who sees through the lens a moment they want to capture. And to me, that's a photographer. I can learn the mechanics of a camera and take a picture of something. But it's interesting to see how you talk about this because what you're really doing is saying you want to show moments that would have probably happened. Like, is it really natural that they're going to be like sitting on the beach with like an arm around each other and she's like holding the arm, looking out at the distance? Like maybe you take that picture. I'm not really judging anybody. You want to make sure that you see couples in their essence and that you have these cute little ways to be like, I'm going to get it out of you know?
Yeah. And that's the perfect way of putting it too. Like the way that I usually describe it is like the in-between moments. So while like poses are great, they have their place. I have to get the standard poses for everyone's wedding gallery.
Right.
You know,
So
like-
I shouldn't be judging or making fun of anybody with the arm around the.
Yeah. And there's a time and place for them. I call the one of them like smiling cheek to cheek. I'm like, okay, this is for your parents' fridge. This is the one that like parents want to share because they don't want to share missing each other's necks. They want you
Right.
pretty. So yeah, I do some poses, but it's the times in between. Like I don't look to get the picture of them screaming blue at the same time. I get the moment right after that. That's how I treat every single prompt, whether it's funny or emotional, like the in between moments of like the first partner pushing like the second partner's hair behind their ear, or them just like looking at each other, like with googly eyes, truly at like listening to each other, tell each other their favorite memory of their relationship, whatever that might be. You know, it's like the real things that happen in relationships that don't make you uncomfortable.
It's beautiful. And I think that this is a great representation of the way that you bring like self into the work, because you and I have had conversations about how you want people to see the world in like the tiny, beautiful moments in it. And that's obviously a belief system of yours and something that you are passionate about, and it resonates in your work. So tell me a little bit about that, because you're a romantic.
Yeah, I am.
In the way that like you see beauty in like a petal on the ground.
Yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah. Like I didn't always consider myself a romantic. Like I love life. Like I'm obsessed with life. I get very happy about like a nice coffee. Like I just get the little things like that keep me going.
All, you know?
Right. Yeah. And like I
love nice coffee.
Yeah. Like I could fall in love with just about anything. So I am a romantic. But I didn't always look at myself that way. Like I'm not a hopeless romantic that like gets swept off their feet easily. And I'm certainly not a sappy person in my own relationship. Like me and my boyfriend are very sarcastic. I like blend the two in shoots. Like I help recognize that like not everyone wants to be vulnerable in front of a camera, and not everyone wants to be like swept away for an hour during their wedding to be taking pictures. Like a lot of those things, the best parts of weddings happen when everyone's around, when you're with people you haven't seen in a while. And so, yeah, like the moments that I chase after are the ones that are the least expected. Like I act as a fly on the wall, and I kind of just like you said, like look through my lens, see someone like rubbing someone's back in passing, or like reacting to speeches. Like when the couple looks at each other, when like the best man and maid of honor are up there, it's like the faces that they make at each other while the other is crying.
So do you have a second shooter where you're like, I want you to just get the basic shots, get the like run of the show, run of the mill, like standard wedding photography, so that you can be the one where you're like, I know I want to get that one shot?
That's a good question too. I usually always have a second photographer with me. The way that I treat second photographers is that I get the shots that I know I have to get, if that makes sense. So it's kind of flipped on its head. Like I get the shots during portraits that I know I have to get, and I have them get in between moments too. Like I have them keep an eye out for them. And then as soon as the formalities are done, like when we're talking like cocktail hour, reception, or like getting ready, those are the times that I'm like more creative, because once I have everything I need, that's when I'm like running around. I'll get like reactions of, I know all the important people, grandparents or best friends. Like I ask that in advance. So then I look out for those moments because I trust that I know the family well.
Yeah. And it's cool because I believe it was you, and I don't know if it was on your content or if it was in a chat that we had, and correct me if I'm wrong, I hope that I'm not. Didn't you share that you also change your photography style through the evening so that it feels more like contrasty at night and a little bit more like glowy during the day?
Yeah, I do. I don't know when.
Yeah, because it's so editorial, the way that you shoot. Would you say that photographers should have an aesthetic and be purchased, quote unquote, or like hired for that aesthetic? Or do you think that you should be hiring somebody's vibe and they can fit an aesthetic? How do you view that relationship if you have a specific way that you like to edit or shoot?
Yes, I would say in terms of like the average person booking a photographer, you have to trust what they're showing you. So if they're showing up online and their edit looks a certain way or their poses look a certain way, that's what they'll prioritize. That's what they're posting, right? So that's what they want to do more of, in my opinion. Let's say you find a photographer and you love their editing style, but you're hoping that they capture more candid moments throughout the day and edit those photos that way. You can't, because their mind isn't trained that way. So like, I would say at first, trust the moments that they're capturing. And if you don't like their editing style, that might be a deal breaker for you. But if not, the moments I think are more important.
Sure. Sure.
So edit or aesthetic and what was the other thing? Oh, aesthetic and vibe, like art and show up and do your thing and make it immaculate. But you have to trust your photographer. You have to feel comfortable in front of your photographer at the very least, because you want you to look like yourself in your photos. That's so important.
Do you love what you do? You can tell. You can always tell when someone is like obsessed with it. They're always problem solving. They're always trying to like find a new way to catch this or do this, or like, how can I make this better? And you can see your brain kind of like working in that way.
Yeah, I feel so honored to do something that I love, because and you've shared this with us in the doer space or just in general on Instagram. I think it was when you were talking about taking Fridays off in the summer and working on holidays. It was one of your podcasts, maybe. And for you, it's like, I'm showing up, I'm working. I might be at dinner and I might have to answer a quick call, but like, I'm happy to do that because like I have clients who need me. And that's how I feel. Like, although I don't want to be rude and leave a dinner conversation, I never really feel like I'm working.
Yeah. I was in Vegas and a client wrote me and was like, hey, could we hop on a call? And I told the table, I'm going to use the restroom and make a phone call really quickly. I think that people are just so afraid to offend and disrupt like a moment. Even this weekend, I went to the playground with my nephew. I was like texting a client, but then we went and got dinner after. I had to step aside, like take care of something for a client. And for me, it's like, yeah, but I got to spend the whole day with my nephew. Or like today after this interview, I'm done on a Monday and it's noon. Or tomorrow I have nothing on the calendar, and I'm obviously going to work, but I'm actually going to take a 2-hour break. I'm going to meal prep for the week. I'm going to go to a coffee shop and like work for the rest of the evening, maybe get a glass of wine once the clock strikes the most reasonable hour to have a glass of wine. You know what I mean? But to me, like fusing all of it together is just so great. And that kind of is a perfect segue into like your entrepreneurship journey. And you have such an interesting story where you're getting your MBA, you're full-time in your own work, you're so young, and like the amount of future ahead of you is just unbelievable. But why don't we go backwards to when we first had our VIP day in December? Because to me, I just thought you could make a couple things better. You could tighten a couple things up. Here's some ways that you could strategically use your pricing. But all I saw was like opportunity. And I think later you had shared with me, oh no, I was like panicked, So why don't you tell people about like where that was? Because I also want to then share like how this road has been since then. But tell us a little bit about that to the level of comfort that you have.
Yeah, no, I have full level of comfort because it really does feel like a little business wine chat right now with you. And I would love to share it with listeners too, because I think that more people are in this situation than you ever think are when you're in the slumps of depression. So when we first met, I found you on Instagram. We turned around that VIP day by Thursday night, which I think is so fun.
Oh my God, wait, what?
I found you on a Tuesday. I trusted you. I was like, this is what I need. And then I hired you you were like, I actually have a VIP day opening on Thursday. You want it? And
I remember this because someone had moved their VIP day and I was like, I have one open like tomorrow, basically.
Yes. And I was like this, and to me, that's serendipitous. Like, I'm like, this is the universe opening up that day just for me. It is mine and I need it. So
you're like dibs.
Yes. So I did that. And I
even remember thinking, can I help a wedding photographer? Like, I think I can. I think that it like all translates. But I was even worried. I was like, oh, I hope I can help her.
Oh my God. That's so funny because for me, I left and I was just like, well, I could breathe. Like I knew it was what I needed. So I went in to give background as to like why I hired you. I went in. Okay, I was quitting my full-time job and I was starting my MBA program that January. So like I was in a phase where like a few weeks I had no full-time job anymore. I was in marketing and I just had this free time of like, okay, now I have to get my back end in order. But I was so afraid that I wouldn't be able to project my revenue. Like I didn't even know what that meant at that time. Like I was just like, I just need to know what's coming in. I feel like I was just running around like a chicken with no head. So it was a huge life transition. It was the biggest transition I had experienced since college. And it was my depression, like my bout of depression was warranted. And it makes total sense because so much of my life was just up in the air. And that was right before our VIP day call. And
that's what you had shared with me later. I forgot until now. You were like, by the way, I was like, I don't know if you're comfortable with this, but you were like, I was like a mess before we had our call.
Oh yeah. I was like, I felt like I was whirling in space. Like I didn't have like anything to grasp onto. So yeah, that happened. I called my mom. I remember I called my mom crying and I was just like, I have this 4-hour call. Like, I don't know what to do.
Like I'm stuck with this girl for 4 hours.
I don't know how it's going to go. I was so tired. My face is puffy, but I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's just Ashley. So whatever, we did it. I left with like, it was one of those things. I left with like a billion ideas and then I was almost overwhelmed of like how to put it all in action. And then since then, I mean, I didn't even know the goals I needed to like set in place, but I've been exceeding them like double, triple. I'm just like amazed by the fact that like we did that I did that, you know?
You did that. Yeah.
I did that. And I didn't think I could do that. And so like the message, I guess I would love to share with people who are struggling in their maybe full-time jobs, or if they have a side hustle that they're like dying to do full time, is that I just didn't think I could do it. I was like, how am I ever going to like make ends meet and do this? But the second I had the fire under my ass to do it, like you just do, you perform, you're resourceful. That's what my therapist was telling me. Like, you are resourceful. You are a resourceful person. Worst case scenario, you pick up another job. You start bartending. You start doing this. Like, you make money because you
That's what I always say to people. I'm like, what's going to happen? You get struck by lightning? You owe the government $100,000? Like, what happens? Nothing happens.
Right.
We're good. It's cool. It's been really interesting to see how you've taken action. And, you know, something for people listening that I think you did well, that I don't know if people know this in the doers, but I actually try to get them to do without their knowing, is we need small successes to see that like, oh, wow, like I can do this. For instance, that third goal that you're like, I keep pushing it and keep pushing it and keep pushing it. If that was the original goal and it took you a while to hit it, your confidence would be not great. But having smaller attainable goals is how you build confidence. And you're like, wait, this worked? Let me try again. Wait, it worked again? Let me try this then, right? And so when anyone is starting, I think I've been saying this more and more lately, and I think I'm going to like make it a bigger thing, is that I've been telling everyone like dream smaller. Sure, dream big, whatever, like fine. But like dream so much smaller. I would rather you have confidence because you had a small goal that you achieved, and then more confidence and then more confidence, and then those big dreams happen for you, than to say, I have to do this like really big monstrous thing. And then you try and it doesn't happen right away because it was too out of touch. Right. And I think what you did without knowing it was really set yourself up for success with these like confidence building steps of success. And it's been great to watch. Now, I also want to talk about the content that you've been creating on TikTok. You kept this from me. I did not know this. I was just on TikTok one day watching a video and I was like, this is so, I was captivated. I couldn't look away. And then I was like, God, this is like really good content. Like, when did she do this? Why wasn't I informed? Not that I needed to be, like, I'm totally joking in that regard, but I was just like, wow, you are doing such a great job. And if you go to her TikTok, I don't know if you're resharing them on Instagram, but if you go to her TikTok specifically, I'm learning so many good tips. Now, granted, you might be sharing like wedding photography, like wedding industry tips, but they're so applicable if you actually can pull out like and understand the takeaway and ways that you can apply it in your own business. I'm learning so much from you. You're so creative. You have so many cool ideas. What has it been like sharing content, like diving into that as like a true marketing focus? How's that felt? Just share that road.
So early on, I wanted to be a lean business. I was priding myself on the fact that I was a solopreneur. I could do it all. I was just shooting weddings. My overhead was limited. I just needed a camera. And I was like, okay, so organic. I come from a content marketing background. So I was like, I could do this organically. Like I could just attract people on Instagram and I got this. I'll have a blog and I'll pay a writer to do it. And I got this, right? So eventually I realized I just like got, I guess, caught up with the times and realized that I had to be doing video. Like I knew that it was essential. I knew I could do it by myself. It just would take way longer to do that.
Yeah.
One of those things I'd put on my calendar and I just wouldn't do. So yeah, I invested in it and it was honestly the best decision. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have another content day with the same videographer. Her name's Lindsay, video artist. So what she does is she focuses on like interview style, natural conversation to bring out the key pillars of your business, the key pillars of your industry, how you differentiate, and just to help people trust that you know what you're doing. That's what I do. Yeah. I post those videos. The feedback has been wonderful. Like I love seeing people of all ages, all generations are commenting like, I love your videos. These are great. And even if you're not getting married or in the industry, I just think it's
Which I'm not. And I'm like, I'm loving this.
Right? It's just like feel good content, which I'm happy about.
It is. It's feel good content. That's exactly what it is.
Right. Like I could share a story from a wedding day that like could touch the hearts of anyone. It doesn't have to be like a bride wanting to hire me. It's just like you hear the story and you're like, oh my God, wow, what a cool job. You know, it's been fun. I'm going to try to prioritize in the next round just telling stories of wedding days and different shoots, just like things that happened in the life of a photographer, because that's what people love to hear, I think, the most.
I couldn't agree more. And I love like what you think I do, but like what it actually is, you know, or like I love seeing maybe like we've kind of talked about this, maybe someone shooting you and then you being able to show what, you know, you created and what you were working on at the time or that kind of thing. Where can we follow you on TikTok if we want to learn from you and become obsessed with you like I have? And then where can we follow you on Instagram just to kind of like see all the magic?
Yeah. So Perennial Feels is where you can find me on both. Perennial, it has one R and two N's. I like to say that.
I was just going to say, we gotta have a breakdown of Perennial because I know it's going to be the question.
Yeah.
It will be in the title and the show notes. Don't worry, but you know.
Yeah. So you can find me there. I'm active on both. And then in terms of like,
do you have open bookings for the year? Or you're done with 2023 or done with 2024?
So 2023, I'm booking out a few months in advance now. I'm taking on things that are like sometimes last minute if I can squeeze them in, but I'm really honoring and protecting my schedule just because
Look at her.
Yeah, I just like needed to block more.
Wait, tell everybody the win that you shared in the doers recently.
Oh yeah. So I had a goal of blocking August as my rest month. And then I have my sprint months of September, October coming up. So I got that one wedding inquiry that I had mentioned earlier in the podcast for a month away, and I wanted it. I could have said yes, and past me would have been like, yes, with flying colors, let's do it, let's plan it. But I just stuck to my original plan of honoring my schedule, honoring rest time, and just creating more space for creativity and like flexibility so that I can show up better for my clients in September and October. So that was like my biggest win.
Like imagine telling Haley in December, you're going to say no to a wedding because you're making enough money and you're going to rest.
I know. And I couldn't believe that it happened. And it was because I knew my revenue projections. Like I can see the money I'm bringing in. Even if I don't work a second in August, I still have those like retainer payments. It just, yeah, all the planning that we did, it so pays off.
I'm so happy to hear that. Well, Haley, I'm obsessed with you. I just think that you're running a clean business the way that you should, you know, one with heart and integrity. You're not overthinking your marketing. You're making it clean and simple services, really, really, really caring for your clients, but not overdoing it because you're scared. I just think that you're doing a really great job and I'm very proud of you. And I'm so honored to have like had your trust and to have you in the doers. And I just could go on and on about you, but thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I always say right now I've been following Robin Sharma. He's the author of 5 a.m. Club. Have you heard of that book?
I have, yeah.
Well, I'm like basically like a cult follower of him now, and I'm a cult follower of you, and I'm a cult.
Oh God, people are gonna call me like a Charles Manson. Not like that, guys.
I jokingly said to my girlfriend from high school that I have a holy trinity of people who I'm like always listening to, and you're one of those people. And I just,
oh, thank you.
I'm honored to be in your space just as much as you have been honored to have me.
Yay. Well, look at us. Guys, everybody go follow Haley. Not only is she a gem, she's insanely talented and creative. I love her TikTok, like I've shared. It's been so great. And do you do weddings that aren't just in your local area?
I do. Yeah, I can travel anywhere. As long as I have the time before and after to like make the trip, I can go anywhere.
Beautiful. Well, Haley, I have rapid fire questions. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
What would you title this chapter of your life?
I would say growth spurt.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
The next one is, what is a mistake you've made recently and what did it teach you?
I'm going to, I guess, piggyback off of the calendar blocking, just honoring my schedule. And also the mistake I made in the busier seasons was just saying yes to everything. The lesson that I learned is that I'm so much better when I'm spending time with family and friends. And
you're rested.
Yeah. And resting because I'm an extrovert. So like I could still build up my creativity and everything with people. But I need to like take time from work.
Yep. What do you wish more people knew? And this is a vague question, so however you want to interpret that.
Okay, being vague. At first, I thought it was going to be like business or wedding related. I think being vague, I would say I wish more people knew that this is going to sound so cliche, but like they could do whatever they want to do. If you have some, like if you're miserable in your job or you're like really stuck in a rut and you're feeling inspired by other people and you're wondering how the hell people do it, like anyone could do that. We're all built for that in some capacity. And I just want everyone to be happy. Like I wish that people would just challenge themselves and go outside their comfort zone and show people what they could do.
And you know what's so funny is like, I definitely try to like stay away from cliche as well. But the thing is like things are cliche because they're said enough. So if enough people are saying it, then maybe it's something we need to pay attention to. I'm glad you shared that. And then finally, if you could have known anything you know now when you started your business, what do you wish it was?
Okay, drum roll. It's that you need the hard days just as much as you need the easy days. And so the lesson there has just been like, you're reminded one of how wonderful the good times can be when you have a really, really, really tough season. But you need to be brought back down to earth sometimes and have like a challenging mistake just to help humble you, like to get you focused again. And like, yeah, so it's like an ebb and flow and just to accept, embrace the hard days.
I like that. I agree with that too. You know, obviously that I'm very much like, what do I say all the time is like, you're signing up for Tuesdays. You're not signing up for the best days of your business. You're signing up for the monotonous, boring part of it. And if you can find a way to fall in love with the hard and the boring, you're set for life. Yeah. And I feel like that's what I found here, which has made me just feel so great. And like, I know this moment will end eventually, but right now I'm like, I love all the boring work. I love all the hard work. That's like lottery winner right there, you know? And so if you can find those, like, I still like it now, unstoppable, you know?
That's how I feel.
Well, guys, thanks for listening. Haley, thanks for being here. You guys have to go check her out. She's amazing. And we will catch you on another episode of The Unfiltered Entrepreneur.